I think it would be remiss to not ask this question because this is kind of the most hyped AI point around software development. Like your perspective on whether software developers will be around in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. So I think, people definitely want to hear your take on this.
Yeah, and I always pause to reflect because I want to catch myself not doing the same thing I just mentioned that most other people are wired to do. Knowing that I've been in this business and I run a company that I guess you could say depends on the future of software. Software is still going to run the world. How does software get created?
We're going through something absolutely historic.
Technologies across the board are growing exponentially.
It's a disruption that's going to completely redefine the way businesses compete.
In the next decade, we're going to lose 40% of today's Fortune 500 companies.
The exponential growth of computing is continuing.
AI is nowhere near its full potential.
Whether you like it or not, that the future cannot be stopped by anyone.
Welcome back to the Future Tech and Foresight podcast. I'm your AI host, Mark Verbenkov's deepfake avatar, and this is episode number 203. The conversation traces Andy's path into AI and software development, starting from his international business background and experiences in globalization to becoming a leader in AI-driven software development. Together, we examine how global outsourcing and digital transformation reshaped the software industry over the past 3 decades, from large corporations leveraging international talent to today's growing need for small and mid-sized companies to access global expertise. Andy shares insights on why treating software development as a transactional job often fails, and how building strong frameworks around people, processes, and integration leads to better results. We then shift to the rise of AI in software development, its real capabilities, the hype, and the risks. From improving workflows to democratizing innovation, AI holds incredible promise, but Andy stresses the need for human oversight and unique value creation. The discussion ends with reflections on AI's dual nature, a powerful tool for collaboration and democratization, but also a technology vulnerable to misuse. For anyone curious about the future of developers, globalization's role in tech, and how AI will shape the software industry, this episode offers both context and foresight about today's guest. As CEO of Accelerance, Andy leads and advocates for the globalization and collaboration of great software teams with companies in search of talent, innovation, and a globally distributed extension of their engineering function and culture. Andy founded the groundbreaking nearshore software development services company, Isthmus Costa Rica. He began his global software services career as a division manager at Cognizant during their early formative years. Andy holds an MBA in International Business, Finance, and Marketing from the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern. He received a bachelor's degree in business and epistemology from the University of Denver after attending Phillips Academy in Andover, Massachusetts.
Great. Well, hi there, Andy. Thank you very much for coming onto the podcast today to talk about AI, software development, offshore, and a bunch of interesting things. So I'm looking forward to getting your insights into this industry and obviously like where the future is going to go with this. So thanks for taking the time to talk to me today.
And Mark, thanks for inviting me to Future Tech. I look forward to having conversation.
Awesome. So we should start off maybe with yourself a little bit. How did you get involved in the work that you're doing? Was it kind of tech first and then business, or business and then tech, or like AI was there at the beginning? What brought you into the space?
Well, I traveled a decent deal when I was younger, in my teens and also in my 20s. And I was an international business major, both undergrad and graduate. I married that with just a fascination with exploration of other cultures. And so I traveled quite a bit, mixed with my international business degree, finance and marketing and such. And I ultimately joined the Peace Corps. This was, of course, after graduating from undergrad and, being in banking and having sort of a quarter life crisis of what do I really want to do. I'm fascinated with the global marketplace and the globalization revolution that was happening, and I wanted to be a part of that. I just have this kind of personality that always is looking at the next 20 or 30 years, and I have a FOMO sort of personality. So I really want to be involved with something that's evolving, and you're feeling like you're being a part of that, which of course, just ties into with AI and tech. But with the globalization revolution, and you combine that with the internet revolution, that's another wave that I wanted to be a part of. And then the two together, obviously there's a wave for those two coming together. And now we're at yet another revolution, and that's the AI revolution. And I'm just wired that way. So that's essentially what got me into it.
Awesome. So we're going to be talking quite a bit about software development, and I think that for those of us that haven't developed software, obviously a part of what you're going to speak to is like the outsourcing of that. Could you maybe start us off with like the last, pick a time frame, 5, 10 years, right? I think that most of the people that are listening to the podcast are aware of outsourcing to other countries for the benefit of lower prices and maybe even some higher quality developers out there. Could you take us through a little bit of like, you talked about the globalization interest, like how did that, I mean, obviously it started with the internet, but like how did that change companies and change software development over the last, say, 10 years or so?
Well, I'm going to push you to say the last 30 years, actually,
Okay. All right.
because the instance of the internet and the digitalization of everything from operations to the way companies interface with people. Same as is going on right now with AI, of course. It's the rationalization of how to get more stuff done faster and better, and in completely different ways. So my introduction to global software development was really with the introduction of the internet, and I wanted to be a part of that. And I joined a company that was just starting out. It was called Cognizant, and today they're 300,000 people. So you can imagine what this intersection of globalization and software development did to a company like Cognizant and many other companies that they compete against. And but having been a Peace Corps volunteer and having worked with small and mid-sized companies in Costa Rica, but thinking that the vast majority of a country's GDP, the vast majority of the people of any country are working in small and mid-sized companies. You just don't work in Fortune 1000 and Fortune 500 companies. And this the ability to take advantage of a revolution like globalization or the internet is largely the domain of the large and the powerful and the well-funded. Um,
Mhm.
you can outsource massive amounts of activities and workload to a country like India, who has unlimited talent. Uh, and you can do it effectively because you have the scale and you have people that you can shift over there to oversee it. And it really felt like it was only the domain of the large and the powerful. And after 3 years with Cognizant, and after 3 years of where they as an embryonic, fast growing startup, but one that needed to double in size and over and over and over again from 20,000 to 40,000, 40 to 80, et cetera. They could not serve small and mid cap companies, and they made the conscious decision to jettison essentially that side of the marketplace. And between you and me, we know that 95% of the workforce out there are small and mid cap companies. And I thought they too need access to experience of global software development. Now, why do they need global software development? Why not just domestic? Well, the demand far outstrips the supply in here in North America. Even today, 85% of software development resides outside of the U.S. Only 15% of the global developers are in the U.S. So if you're not taking advantage of that talent or the pool of hyper specialization that you can find elsewhere, just look at the pool of 100% and say, I'm only going to work in a small supply, locally sourced, higher price because of supply and demand, and then I'm going to compete effectively. Like that
Mhm.
really doesn't make the math doesn't make sense.
Right. And maybe also another point here is like it's a bit of a tricky question, but the initial sense that I think, I mean, maybe myself when I was a little bit younger, but certainly people now, they think, okay, well, you're outsourcing it, so the quality is going to be lower outside of the United States or outside of Canada or outside of Europe. Could you maybe talk to how that might not be true
Well,
with the advent of, remote or online education, for instance?
well, yeah. This may sound a little philosophical, but anything can be true if you believe in it to be true and you make it true in its own sense. Yeah, you can outsource and have horrible outcomes. You can have co-located here domestically, and you could have horrible outcomes. The point is, it's uh, not people is one component of successful software development outcomes. There's essentially people, processes, technology, and data,
Mm.
and it's all about how you aggregate and how you organize a culture of software development that makes a difference. Now, Americans, and I wouldn't, I'm not going to speak for Canadians, but Americans tend to be very transactional and very litigious, and the whole realm of outsourcing, which was not software before that, uh, and still our mentality today is to send requirements somewhere else to get it done and then to get it back. And if we don't like it, we don't pay for it.
Mhm.
And if that continues, we might get into legal, battles. But software is a team sport. And it really requires a wholly different mentality of, empowerment and accountability and measurement and continual improvement, essentially alignment. But if you try to treat it like you're making a wicker chair in China, yeah, you're going to get bad results because you're not putting together the right framework of the people and the processes. You really have to be process oriented first. I tell you that most people come to me and say, I need uh, specialist in software development and tech stack or subject matter expertise or an application type, and I want it for cheaper. And if I get that, my problem is solved. I'm like, no, yeah, that's just the beginning of the continuum: people, process, technology, and data. I mean, all of those things have to be working together, and you have to align them, or else you're going to get bad results. You're going to get bad results whether you outsource or not. If you don't focus on how is this how is this going into the engine of process? Where is the framework and the process for making the people, the data, and the technology work together? So, I mean, that's essentially the problem people are dealing with, and they make a false equivalency where outsourcing, equals bad outcomes. And from my point of view, it's usually the client who doesn't understand how this ecosystem has to come together.
Right. So I mean, I have a couple global freelancers, shall we say, on my team. Sometimes they're a little bit more full staff. Sometimes they're a little bit just freelancing. I find that, and this is not for software development. This is for digital marketing and for other certain things. But I think that the processes would be kind of similar. I find that it's kind of on me to make sure that the processes, the SOPs, the kind of the communication of the work that needs to be done is on me to make it as clear as possible so that the work can be done. And the person I mean, they're all competent, they're all capable, but if my communication isn't there, then the outcome is bad.
And they may not be competent or capable, and you learn that over time, and that it's still a human being, whether or not they're located in Bangladesh or St. Louis.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, the reality is that companies and managers need to be servant leaders. They need to figure out if um, if the talent or the resource, the person, the human being has the capabilities. It's up to the manager or the company to serve that individual so that they can produce at the highest level of quality and efficacy possible.
So is this
It's
something
returned
that
by serving the resource. Yeah.
is this something that you find has potentially improved the communication in a domestic market? So like, when you're outsourcing and dealing with other cultures even, right? So it's not just that they're across the pond or in different parts of the world. There's also a different, language sometimes or a different culture. Um, do you find that because the processes and the communication has to improve, that also then helps the domestic communication and the way that the business is structured?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a mindset and an approach to again, empowering and holding people accountable. There's uh, five dysfunctions of a team is a good source of information. If people are looking for a good model of which the pattern, what is not just software development, but any team orientation. It's about, you know, um, building trust through credibility, trusting one another, having radical candor amongst one another, opening up, being accountable, being empowered to speak, and to feel like you're a part of a team and not just a widget, that you're treated as a valuable human being and you have a role and you're accountable for delivering your piece of deliverable. And then the team galvanizes together and pursues a one direction based on the leader, but everyone has the free reign to debate and communicate. That's the radical candor part. And then ultimately everyone's accountable for doing their own job. And that's a really good framework to put it, against any kind of functional need.
Right. Now, where do you fit into this? How are you helping businesses, software development, outsource? Maybe just talk a little bit about your own business here.
Well, sure. So I run Accelerants, which I'm sure you'll tell the listeners of that. But what Accelerants does is two things. One, historically, before COVID, we were primarily a people software development organization focused company that has a network of software development service agencies around the world. We vet 15,000 software development companies around the world. We scorecard them remotely, initially publicly available information. And then as their score increases over time, if their score increases over time, then we have incremental ways to interact and to exchange information, talking with their business, technical, and process leaders. And then ultimately, we put people on planes and go over there and interact with their leadership, with their development, because this is all about risk mitigation and validation of these companies. And then to identify a certain number, we have 75 partners in 32 countries. And each partner is not a clone of another partner. Every partner has excellent leadership, and smart people attract smart people. They're hiring the smart talent, they're training them, they're retaining them. But each company has a hyper specialization around something. It's typically an industry or an application type, or maybe a technical stack. And I want to find these partners that attract the best talent that wants to focus on solving a very specific problem around a very specific set of attributes like industry or technology stacks. Because then when I interact with prospects or clients that are looking for scalable talent, scalable teams, not just one-offs, not just individuals, but teams that can solve a similar problem, I know that I'm going to have a partner that has done this repeatedly time over time and has the subject matter expertise and understands the vernacular, understands what the client is trying to achieve, and can start producing value right away. Now that was like the first 15 years of Accelerants. And it continues to be an important part of this continuum of outcomes, the people, process, technology, and data. But today, the people's ability to access global talent is commoditized. There's platforms that I can find people, I can find companies much more easily. And people feel that they are empowered to find the people directly. They don't necessarily want an advisor or a middleman. I mean, we still do a good amount of business where people come to us and say, there's literally 10,000 options out here and I need one. I need to find the best one. Please help me find it. But, a lot of companies are like, yeah, you're a middleman and we don't need any help. I can do it myself. In fact, I'm tasked to do it myself. And they don't engage us. But I always say, good people put into a bad process results in bad outcomes. Bad people into a bad process obviously is going to result in bad outcomes. So over the last 5 years, with the commoditization of being able to source talent, but still not achieve great outcomes, it's really contingent upon making sure a company builds the framework to integrate, to embed, to onboard, and to produce a development environment that is cohesive and collaborative, and is measured and is always continually improving in what they're doing. And again, a lot of companies just don't do that. They're very transactional. It's like, I don't want to do that. I don't need to do this. I just want this X person to produce Y result, and I'll put it into, the the building blocks and produce an outcome. And in software, you just can't. Any listener knows you can't do that.
Do you think, would you say that that's like the main challenge that you have when you're talking to a new client or a new prospect, this transactional mindset compared
Oh,
to
definitely.
this collaborative way of
Well,
thinking?
I often say we win the hearts and minds of the CTOs because they understand what I'm saying right now.
Mhm.
They understand how important it is to put in a framework. They're often met with a lot of resistance by other stakeholders and senior management to say, that's what we hired you for. And that's a stupid response, but it's a
Mhm.
response that's more common than I'd like. And that's why we try to make sure that we have an audience of stakeholders and senior leaders to have them understand what are the real drivers of value. It's not $5 an hour between Bangladesh and India, or India and nearshore and Eastern Europe, or whatever. But people throw around nickels like manhole covers when they're talking about procurement. And if there's a procurement organization, forget it. I mean, they're all about just scorecarding and then rate cards, and then choosing, it's like that Apollo 13 thing, or the spacecraft was put together by the lowest bidders of all the parts.
Right, right.
Crazy to think about, but I mean, the analogy still rings true. And so, yeah, we often win the hearts and minds of the CTO because they understand how the drivers of value, which is like getting the right team with the right hyper specialization, how fast can they onboard and become productive, how much contingency there is in development. If you're playing at 15 months, but there's a 5-month contingency and you have 20 developers, well, could you use 15 developers? And could that contingency be reduced significantly? I mean, those are huge impacts on value, as opposed to, $5 an hour, and they say the same thing. Well, yeah, everyone says the same thing. And Mark, that's the problem nowadays is there are 30,000 dev shops out there flooding the marketplace with just, AI driven value propositions and promises. And anytime you have a humongous pool of anything, there is 95% suboptimized quality. There's 4% good, and there's 1% more optimized, and there's just so much smoke and mirrors out there.
Is that what you're seeing with the AI? Shall we call it a revolution? Or I don't know if a renaissance is the right word here, but the new, you know, FOMO and excitement around AI. Is that like, is it a lot of smoke and mirrors that you're seeing? Like, is there, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Anything that is revolutionary and anything that's growing and getting a lot of hype. I mean, we're in the hype stage, certainly, and there's a lot of promises, and there's a lot of flameouts, and a lot of companies have nothing to lose, and they're riding on investor dollars,
Mm.
and they're going to go out and do whatever it is to hook and land the fish. It's,
Yeah.
and it's a crazy world out there. Yeah.
Okay, so on the other side of the coin here, what are you seeing that is beneficial and that is positive and useful with the adoption of AI, specifically, obviously, with software development?
Yeah. So we're in the process, as everyone is in reevaluating how you go to market with software development, and we personally are uh, going back, not to the drawing board, but looking at our current partners, looking at our sort of second tier partners, those partners that we don't actively work with, but are very close, almost duplicative of our tier one partners. Again, we assess 10,000 development shops, and 75 of them we work closely with, but there's another 200 or 300 that are somewhat redundant to the top tier, but there's bandwidth issues and stuff like that. So we're reevaluating all of our partners on who is delivering tangible benefits and value, and how you define value. It's either risk mitigation, or it's a value creation, capturing your target audience, speed to market, iterative development processes. How are they investing in the people and the processes to deliver AI to the software development lifecycle to the client in real time. What does that look like from a contractual basis? What does that look like from a relationship basis? What does that look like from a personnel? Like how many people does it take in order to produce, X outcome? And how can they tangibly promise this both contractually and then demonstrate it in a way like how are these service providers actually doing this? Clients want to see that because other than that, just assume everything is smoke and mirrors, and false promises and like, oh, you'll get these benefits, but it's not in the contract, and I'm like, well, then how do I verify them? You know, so
Yeah.
this is where we're at today. Is just so many people in general want to say yes to things. And if they don't say yes, someone else is going to say yes. And so they're basically painted into a corner in order to make promises that most people and companies can't deliver on. So
Mhm.
yeah, it kind of gets back to our original like pre-AI. I mean, AI and machine learning were always around, but the pre-hype, let's call it.
Yeah, sure.
It's really about taking the time to do really good due diligence and to verify what you're working with and how they're working and to really get under the covers, and to not suffice with just exchanging talking heads and papers and things that can be easily manipulated, and not validated. Getting on planes, breaking bread, talking to other clients, sitting with the developers and how they're developing and how they did it before and versus how they're doing it now. And is there a methodology of how they're implementing AI into the analysis and the coding and the QA. And okay, this is June today, but what's it going to look like in September or December next year? And what tangible promises can you make?
Yeah. I think it would be remiss to not ask this question because this is kind of uh, I don't know if we want to call it the most hyped AI point around software development. Like your perspective on whether software developers will be around in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. I know it's a ridiculous question, but I think people definitely want to hear your take on this.
Um, yeah, and I always pause to reflect because I want to catch myself in
Mm,
not doing the same thing I just mentioned that most other people are wired to do. Knowing that I've been in this business and I run a company that I guess you could say depends on the future of software. Software is still going to run the world. How does software get created? And there's a lot of, well, let me say the teams are going to be smaller, and roles are going to be changed, and responsibilities and activities are going to completely be altered, just like they did when the Industrial Revolution came. And you can see the exact same thing. People are going to be reskilled, retooled, and it's going to look significantly different. So I don't even like necessarily, I like to answer the question, is today's world going to look the same in the future? I'm like, no, it never is, right? And the way we define it today is going to look completely different. And people are going to be doing new things, not just fewer things, but a lot of new things in regards to product market fit and product development and ownership and monitoring, measuring, and the output and validating that. And again, if you use AI for everything, everything is commoditized. And how do you differentiate? It's really the human factor.
mm,
How do you touch a product that touches a person in a different and better way? That really, you can't do that. Like, well, AI can do that. Well, yeah, AI can do that for every product. Again,
right.
you're commoditizing the outcome. So it really requires the human touch in order to make it unique. That's a kind of a convoluted answer, but also I kind of like the answer.
Okay, I'll accept it. I won't
You
feel.
may not like it, or your listeners may not like it, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I think this is the interesting thing about AI. It's this relatively unknown future. Obviously, there's like a couple larger trends that are going to continue forward, but everybody's making guesses about every single industry and how AI is going to be impacting that. And then there's obviously the big question of, well, is it going to be an augmenting force or is it going to be a replacement force, right? If I don't know who, yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
it's gonna be all of that. I have 2 of my 3 kids are in the tech industry. One's a senior product manager at a software company, and the other one was at Cognizant, but actually he just joined us.
Mm.
Um, and that the one that joined us actually, his undergrad degree at Stanford was STS software. No, society technology. S Soc- Society technology STS. Darn. I do that like the back of my head. Science, technology, and science. It's not that. Yeah, it's
Oh,
about
it's some permutation of that.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. The ethical use of technology in how it's evolving in today's society,
Mm,
and
mm.
and how AI is changing the way humans interact, the way humans work, and how we can work alongside of it, obviously in ethical ways. And I was just actually on a call with a client of ours who is doing some really fascinating things. They're working with Meta on facial recognition and determining emotions and determining attention and determining, various things that are gonna. And a lot of it is part of it is driven towards commercial ends, and part of it is driven towards the unethical use,
Yeah,
are these real people, speaking?
yeah.
How are they? Again, the world's full of we live in a world full of people just trying to make it through the day uh,
Mhm.
through various nefarious means. I hate to say that, and I don't mean to be a bummer, but I think it's pretty obvious for.
Yeah, yeah. We've had a lot of like security experts come onto the podcast to talk about what AI, of course, but how these nefarious actors out in the world are going to be super powered, if you will, and there's going to be this new arms race of cybersecurity experts, hackers, etc.
Yeah.
It's I think it's scary, but it's also fascinating how the future is going to unfold in kind of every industry. This whether it's a hype wave or whether there's actually some real meat behind the AI that's going to be utilized.
Yeah.
Either way, it's going to be very interesting.
I mean, look, that's why everyone likes Black Mirror.
Yes. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
scary, it's fascinating, but yet scary at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I mean, the time's kind of winding down here. Maybe one of the other questions that I like to ask is, what do you see as kind of one of the main benefits or positive aspects with, again, artificial intelligence coming, like, shall we say, becoming a little bit more ubiquitous in the next, say, 5 years or so? Um, we don't need to delve too much into the negative aspects because I think that could take up a whole podcast in and of itself. But are there things that you're excited about? Maybe more on the augmenting of human workers. What are your thoughts?
Well, 35 years ago, when I was a Peace Corps volunteer, uh, I think something that's driven me personally is the democratization
Mm,
of relationships. And relationships take various formats. There are personal relationships, there's commercial relationships, there's working together. That's just essentially, my own personal philosophy is open markets, open borders. Well, I don't want to go down that path. Open
yeah, yeah.
borders, meaning that, a more collaborative world, a more understanding world, appreciative world of each other leads to a more stable world, a world that is more stable economically and communicatively. Uh, has the potential to be a more stable world because we can understand, we can appreciate, we can relate. And AI's ability to provide work, interaction, the internet, the democratization of media. Now that obviously opens it up to the bad guys, but anything,
Yeah.
anything that is has a positive potential, obviously has a negative attraction for people. For
Mm,
example, Costa Rica now. I lived in Costa Rica for 3 years. My wife is from Costa Rica. I have a house in Costa Rica. Costa Rica is the Switzerland of Latin America, or it used to be. Well, guess what? Now everyone knows that, and guess what? The bad guys know that too. And so now they're using Costa Rica as I guess the number two transition spot for illegal drugs, moving into North America. Well, it's like,
Right.
oh crap, anything good, you just ruin it. Well,
Well,
unfortunately, that's the way technology is too. It has this good potential of democratization, but it also attracts the bad components too. But I want to focus on the good thing, and the good thing is people around the world being able to work remotely, work collaboratively, um, to self-educate, and to give themselves so many people, so many billions of people opportunities they never had before. That's the good. We bad leaders out from like abusing it.
I would definitely agree with that. That seems very similar to what I'm hearing from, other experts that come onto the podcast to talk about, their industries, not software development, but, other various industries. Maybe kind of a final question here, Andy, which is kind of connected to what we just talked about, like your vision of the next, say, 5 to 10 years as it relates to AI impacting software development. Do you see like not a renaissance, but like a massive growth in the ability and the amount of software being developed? Because I think if I understood you correctly, like outsourcing enabled the volume of software to drastically increase. Do you see AI as like an augmenting force of that, so it can even go more? Like, are we going to see 10 times more tools and more development happening with the advent of AI? Like, do you see it as an
Yeah, and
augmenting force in this? Yeah.
that's that has to happen. The incremental the exponential increase in trialing things and producing new software solutions and the tools needed to do that and the engineering of people's work styles and work approaches and what they do and how they define their jobs, that we all have to go through that now, and a lot of that's going to be wasted energy and value, but it's just a necessary voyage or path that we need to go through, and it's going to produce a lot of tremendous breakthroughs in every aspect of our lives, whether it's medical, personal, physical, technological, the way we work with people, things that we can't even imagine. And there's going to be a vast amount, 95% plus that are just valiant effort, but didn't break through to be that solution for that problem.
Yeah.
But it's an exciting thing. I mean, there's going to be a lot of innovation, a lot of investment, um, and there's going to be some just miraculous outcomes that are coming from this that we don't even know, and that's really exciting to be a part of. Um, yeah, I think we're all wired to fear what could come of that also. Um, but we can't control it, so we just control what we can and deal with the rest.
I think that's a perfect way to end the podcast here, Andy. A very positive outlook for the future, and I think an exciting one, which is maybe one of the larger themes that I've been picking up on and that I like to hear in the podcast. So, irrespective of what industry, there's obviously some things to be concerned about, but overall, there's large excitement and opportunity in the future, whether it's AI or any of these other emerging technologies that are going to change our world in one way or another. Andy, I have your website, your LinkedIn, and your YouTube that I'll have up on the show notes. I'm assuming those are the places that you want people to reach out and see what you guys are up to.
Yeah, sounds great.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for your time and talking a little bit about software development, outsourcing, and kind of the future of how it's going to happen. Thanks for your time and appreciate your insights.
I appreciate it, Mark, and thank you for the time.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for listening to this week's Future Tech and Foresight podcast. If you like what you've heard here, there are, of course, a number of ways that you can support the podcast. The best way would be to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or give a rating on Spotify, which you can find a step-by-step explanation for on the futuretechandforesight.com website. Alternatively, feel free to leave a comment either on the episode show notes or the YouTube channel where you can see video recordings of the interviews. And finally, if you are part of an organization that is aware of the disruptive and transformational impact that emerging and future technologies will bring and want to know more, please get in touch to hear about the strategic foresight services that we offer and how we can help future-proof your organization and take advantage of the phenomenal opportunities available to survive and thrive in the future.
A lot of future-shocked people and future-shocked institutions in our society are simply overwhelmed.
Once there is superintelligence, the fate of humanity may depend on what the superintelligence does.
Science fact is catching up to science fiction.
The first truly intelligent machine will be the last invention that humanity needs to make.
The only scarcity that will exist in the future is that which we decide to create ourselves as humans.
Within a 10-year design revolution, we can have all humanity living the highest standard of living anybody's ever known.
Progress is accelerating at an exponential pace, and it's going to reach a point where progress is so fast it's going to be a singularity.
We are probably one of the last generations of Homo sapiens.
Every single headline points to the birth pangs of a Type 1 civilization.